We'll call the meeting to order. This is the July meeting of the Virginia-Highland City Association Board of Directors. It's 7:03 p.m. Present with us are board members Forstler, Horn, Bird, Wilkes, Freylake, Lola Carlisle, John Becker, Pam Patner, and David Wilson. Away with notice was Arturo Cruz Tucker. And first I'd like a motion to adopt the agenda.
So
Objection, so it is adopted. And we're going to proceed directly to our reports from our police and fire representatives, starting with our Zone 6 reps, Sergeant Mitchell and Officer Roman. Thank you for coming.
No problem. Really quick, I just wanted to come and introduce myself. I'm the new A Sector Sergeant on Evening Watch. So I'm happy to be here in Zone 6. This is Officer Roman. He is the beat officer for this area. So he's going to give you guys the stats for this area.
All right, recently we had auto theft on Drury Street. I don't know if you guys heard about that.
To the
It's on
Jeep.
Fifth.
To the Jeep, yeah, I saw that this morning. So it's the second one they've had stolen from in like a year, that's awful.
Other than that, our biggest problem are theft from vehicles, actually. If you notice, I don't know how many of you guys come in contact with us, but we've been out letting people know to not keep valuable things in your cars. If you do, at least hide them. A lot of these things, crimes of opportunity. They're going to look through the windows, and if they see something, they're going to smash and grab it. They're not going to take the time to sit down and rummage through your stuff. So help yourself to not be a victim to these things. Other than that, we had one burglary, 921 Ponds Place. That was residential. And then we had a bike stolen off of Virginia. It was just chained up outside. They cut the chain and took it. Other than that, what do you guys got? Anything I can answer?
Last question,
Got my sergeant here. She can help out.
any questions for either? Well, thank you very much for coming. We appreciate you very much, and good luck tonight. Be careful.
Thank you.
We also have with us tonight Lieutenant Jeff Baxter from APD's new Beltline Patrol. And sir, we're glad to have you here and appreciate your work. And the floor is yours.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lieutenant Jeff Baxter. I'm with the Atlanta Police Department. I've been here about 16 years now. And I'm the unit commander for the new unit that we just started up to provide public safety to the Atlanta Beltline, its adjoining parks and communities. And we're very excited about it. I know it's been a long time coming, but I'm here to let you all know that we're very serious about providing public safety to the Atlanta Beltline. So much so that we created a group just to do that. There's 15 police officers, 2 sergeants, and myself as the unit commander. We're tasked to get out there every day. And I just kind of want to see, this is our second week that we've actually been out there. So just by a show of hands, for those of you that use the East Side Trail, who here has seen an increase in police out on the Beltline from just being out there? Yeah, so, you know, like I said, we're very excited about it. If you look at the Atlanta Beltline right now, it's kind of broken up into a couple different pieces. And that main piece being the piece that's here that runs through your community in terms of how many people use it and crime that's happened on it. And so, you know, you guys are the most popular thing going right now with the East Side Trail. The Beltline group recently hired a company to come out with video technology and try to count how many people were actually using the Beltline's East Side Trail. And they estimated, this was just for one weekend, I believe it was Easter weekend, on a Saturday and Sunday, there were about 8,000 people that were up and down the Atlanta Beltline in just those 2 days for one weekend. So that's 8,000 people that are on that 2¼ mile stretch from, if you look at Irwin Street all the way to Monroe. That's the stretch that we're looking at. And then, of course, they're looking to expand it now across Irwin and on further out. So in terms of use, your community is the one that's using it the most out of the other communities that the Beltline currently touches. And so, we certainly recognize that in our game plan in providing safety. Right now, our primary means is bicycle. That's pretty much how we patrol right now. And once we get going here in a little while, we're going to start out with off-road dual-purpose motorcycles that will allow us to get in and out of all the parks. And there's actually 27 parks that are associated with the Atlanta Beltline project. And we'll also be responsible for getting through those parks and responding to complaints that we have within those parks. But we're going to bring on off-road motorcycles. We're looking at side-by-side ATVs. And right now, we're in negotiation. We're trying to get our hands on some electric vehicles to drive on the Atlanta Beltline. And we're looking at the Nissan Leaf as one of those vehicles that we're looking at trying to get. And that would be through partnering with Georgia Power. They're looking at providing those for us to use. And so we're trying to come up with different ways to get out there with. So with that, we also recently conducted some training. I know John Wolfinger here was instrumental in trying to line that up. We actually, some of my officers out of the 15 weren't bicycle certified. If you're going to ride a bicycle as part of being a police officer, you have to go through a 40-hour block of instruction where they teach you different methods and ways to patrol on a bicycle. I had about 5 or 6 folks that needed that training. They didn't have it yet. So our police academy got the instructors to hold that training, and we got the bicycles and all to put it on. But instead of having it at our police academy, which is way on the south side down by the airport, I thought it'd be best if we were able to hold that training here in Virginia-Highlands. And so I sent John an email and I said, hey, listen, I'd love to be able to do this training in the same neighborhood that we're going to be in. Do you think you could reach out to some folks and come up with something? And Danielle Brooks at Diversified Metal Fabrication, which is off of the dead end of Plant Street. Okay, gotcha. She offered her building. I went over and I met with her, and she offered the space for the classroom portion. They had the classroom portion each morning, and then they got out there on the Beltline to ride as part of their instruction, and it worked out great. It was a week long, and they loved having us there. We loved being there, and we got that tie-in, which is what I hope to do more of in the future. So I'm trying to think of what else. We provide 7-day coverage. The way that I have the shifts split up is that we're 7 days a week, and we're roughly 8 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock. Right now, the Beltline is trying to mirror City of Atlanta park rules, which say that after 11 o'clock, you shouldn't be in the park and you shouldn't be on the Atlanta Beltline. So we're kind of trying to mirror that. So that's kind of our hours of operation, 7 days a week, and that's what we're trying to maintain. So some of the things in the future that we're going to do, and I'm sure I'll be working with John on that, is that we want to do, just like you have a neighborhood watch program, so there'd be like a Virginia-Highlands neighborhood watch, we want to do something called like a trail watch, where people actually can go out and be on the Atlanta Beltline and kind of have some ideas as to what to look for things that might be suspicious or other activity. So we would have a class that we would hold at our Atlanta Police Academy for those that would be interested. You would go through the class for the neighborhood watch training, but it would be tailored towards the Atlanta Beltline. We'd give you a little backpack with, notepad, flashlight, some other stuff, and that kind of be your backpack that you would use when you were out there. And you could help be our eyes and ears out on whatever section of the Atlanta Beltline that you would want to adopt or be a part of. So that's something that we're trying to roll out to get some more community engagement in terms of being out on the Beltline. But you guys are our eyes and ears, so we're trying to get that engagement. So
Well, we're really glad to have you. 15 officers and 2 sergeants for 16 shifts a week. Is that enough? Or do you
I would like more. Eventually, I'm going to keep asking for more. This was kind of our initial rollout. that we've done, and I would certainly like to get more as time goes on, especially as the other portions of the Beltline come online. We're going to need to expand and grow, and so I'm hoping, and I'm sure that we'll be able to expand. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. This is our, like I said, our second week of operations, so we're just kind of get a feel for things. We've already made several arrests out there. Some homeless folks have been a challenge. We did a big sweep under the Piedmont and Monroe Bridge where the Beltline's going through there. There were a whole bunch of homeless folks that we had to deal with. So those are kind of some of the things that we're seeing out there as we move forward. There's a lot of folks out there that haven't been challenged or spoken to or found in terms of the Beltline. And now that we're out there every day, we're starting to see that and deal with that. So, yes, ma'am.
Where that, I don't know if it's Freedom Parkway, maybe more than the Beltline, but where that John Lewis statue, a little section is just south of Ponce, next to Freedom Parkway. There's also kind of a campground with homeless folks that I hadn't seen before. It seems to be
Really?
pretty
Okay.
solid right now.
Is that like where the Freedom Trail is? So now everyone knows there's the Freedom Trail that runs up along Freedom Parkway and then over to Moreland. Now that's a separate deal than the Beltline, but they do feed into each other. And I have had my officers, if you're on the Beltline, you can go up that little hill where the bridge is, and you can get up to the Freedom Trail. So we have been up there. But yeah, I'll leave you my information if you want to email me and just let me know exactly where, we can check that out.
Are there very many people that are using the Beltline after dark?
There is, and the challenge is, there's a lot of, if you get further down towards like Monroe, there are a lot of businesses, there are a lot of bars in the areas, people use the bar, they want to walk back to their apartment, that's along the Beltline, and so, 2 o'clock in the morning, you're going to have that person that didn't want to drive drunk, so they walk there from their apartment complex, so you're going to have stuff like that. We do our best to, when we see folks out there, to say, hey, listen, you guys shouldn't be out here after 11 o'clock. You need to not be out here. So we're being nice now with the warnings, just letting folks know. But yeah, it's not, it's not a tremendous amount of folks. But yeah, there's people who use it. Now, I think the theory is with the Beltline group is that eventually, and especially someday way down the road when they bring the transit piece in, the light rail that's supposed to run next to the Beltline, that it'll be a 24-hour operation, and it'll be, and I think that the Beltline wants to drive that to be a 24-hour, keep people moving kind of thing. So, but right now, we're sticking with the park rules as we start out. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was, I go to so the Beltline group has hired an architectural firm to actually do the actual design of the Beltline and implement it. And I sit on those meetings. And one of the things that I push for is lighting and cameras. So I can tell you that on the East Side Trail, when we talk about between Irwin Street and Monroe, I'm here to tell you the lighting's not that high. And they drop the ball when it comes to lighting between Irwin Street and Monroe. We've pushed them to say, hey, listen, the lighting needs to be better out here, especially when we get into the wintertime and it's dark at 6 o'clock and people still want to use it when they get home from work. So the Beltline group is working with Georgia Power to increase lighting on that East Side Trail. And then they're also working with different businesses and apartment complexes that back up to it to ask them to please put more lights out there to help go out onto the Beltline. But moving forward, all new pieces of the Beltline that are put in, so when we go Irwin Street and we push on, will be dedicated light poles with actual lit lights every, I think, 70 feet is the standard that they're going to use. So moving forward, there will be more lighting with the Beltline, and they're going back now and trying to improve the lighting that's out there now on the East Side Trail. The other thing that the Beltline is committed to are cameras. So we're going to have video camera technology tied into the overall safety piece. They've already purchased 3 cameras that should be up soon, and we're going to place those cameras at the trail entrances. So if you look at Greenwood, and some other spots where you have the trails, where you come onto the trails. That's where the cameras will be placed. And then those cameras will be tied into our video integration center, or we call it the VIC, and it's the big giant room like this that we have in our communications center with screens all over it, where there's people that monitor those cameras, and those will all be tied in there. So the lighting and the video integration are two key pieces also that we push forward with as we expand.
Karen, you had a question?
I was curious, considering the width of the belt line, how would it work with either an ATV or an electric vehicle?
Yeah, I mean, it would be tight, you know, but
I mean, would you
it's
envision
important to
patrolling
me.
with it, or would you envision just using it to go get things and responding?
Well, we would patrol. I mean, if you look, I had it out there. I drove a Nissan Leaf on the belt line, on the east side trail. And I mean, you can have it on one half, and you still have the other half for people to get by. Now, when it's really super crowded, like on the weekends, you know, that would be a challenge. But for me, it's important to have something out there other than a bicycle to get people off that we need to get off. Or if
So it's
people
more
need
like a
help,
response
or,
type of-
right. So it just gives us a better capability. And when it rains, when the weather's bad, when it's the winter time, when it's, you know, we need something to be out there on other than a bicycle. So,
Well,
I have two questions.
Sure.
You might have mentioned this, but do you have the mounted police out there? Number one, that's one question,
Right.
and how y'all interact with them. And the other is, I've heard of just horses, civilian horses and riders being out there. Is that legal or not?
so to answer your first question, our mounted patrol unit within APD, they're on board with us in providing public safety out there. So the horses are part of the overall strategy to have people out there. So they're incorporated with us. So we push to have them out there, and they're out there. Moving forward, we're trying to get 2 horses right now that will be dedicated to nothing but the belt line. And they'll be under my span of control. Right now, the mounted patrol unit is a separate unit within APD, just like I have this unit now, and there's the mounted unit. But I'll have 2 officers that are in the mounted patrol that they'll be tasked with being out on the belt line. Right now, they do a pretty good job of getting out there anyway, but we want to eventually move towards having dedicated horses for the belt line. Now, the folks that are out there riding, and they're not the police, they're not really supposed to be out there. And so, you know, we've gotten some emails and stuff about some riders that folks have seen out there. And eventually, I'm sure we're going to cross paths and kind of give them a friendly, you guys can't be out here, you know. So, but yeah, I mean, they're out there. I don't know what entity they're with or what group they're with. But there's like one or two that have been spotted out there walking on the belt line. So,
Matt, did you have a question?
Oh, no, my question was answered, thank you.
So as you know, I'm sure, I mean, it's used way past Monroe. It's used, as you mentioned, down at Piedmont. It's used actually well past Piedmont.
right
all the way
behind
to
Ainsley Mall, we're going to keep going.
And
forward.
actually, do y'all go down there occasionally?
Absolutely. Even where there's no concrete and there's dirt, we go.
There's a lot of people. Well, it's fun. It's a
Yeah.
nice section.
And so I know John spoke about, you know, we have students that go to Grady High School that, you know, get on it like where Montgomery Ferry is and then use that to get to school. And so, yeah, I mean, we're going to be there. We're going to be where anyone else is. So that's our plan.
When we spoke a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned undercover officers out on the belt line.
Right.
Who are going to look like users of the belt line. Is that happening
Absolutely.
yet, or?
Yeah, so I have the ability and the authority within the unit that we created to be out there to, if we pick up on a crime pattern, crime trends, something happening weird around the same time, same place, like stuff keeps happening, we have the ability to be in plain clothes, so we can dress like anyone else and pretend to be out there, but really we're spotting. And we have a Bluetooth in and we're able to say, hey, someone needs to come over here and check this guy out, or someone needs to come do this or that. So I can have plainclothes officers, both male and female, out there in an undercover capacity to spot and help call us in. And I can also have that with, I can have one of my officers, we were talking the other day about an old beach cruiser. So I can have an officer in tank top flip-flops on the beach cruiser going up and down, waiting to look for something to call in for us to be able to pounce on. So that's definitely a capability that
That'd be a pretty alarming look.
I have one of my young guys who's just, he's probably 24. He really wants to skateboard, so he wants to go to skate park, and he wants to skateboard undercover. So, but yes, we have that capability.
Outstanding. Well, we appreciate your very, oh, I'm sorry.
Are there any other, you mentioned the safety class, or, how you made the neighborhood involved, are there
Right.
any other like self-defense or safety classes that people could take, that you guys recommend, that you offer through the department, or?
Well, the one thing I'd like to mention is the Citizens Police Academy. I think that John is a graduate of that. I don't know if anyone else here has gone through it. But we offer a Citizens Police Academy where you actually go to our police academy and we run you through the different classes that actual police recruits go through. And it gives you a taste of what the police deal with and the kind of classes that they have. In terms of strictly self-defense, I'd have to think about that. I'll leave you my information. I can't recommend anything off the top of my head. That might be like a private, local kind of thing.
All right, well, first I want to thank John Becker for arranging to have Lieutenant Baxter here. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, we're very excited about it. We'd love to do, maybe if you guys want to come ride with us, we're all bike enthusiasts, we all like to ride, and we all enjoy being out there.
Well, Lola rides horses, by the way.
We love, our stables are at Grant Park. We have a very big equestrian stables that are set up down by Grant Park. And they have a pasture, and it's really a big deal. So we have about, I think we're up to 11 horses right now, 11 full-time horses that are out there every day. And so I can certainly arrange for you if you want to come down and check out our stables. We can show you. It's right down by Grant Park.
Thank you for coming. You feel free to come at any time. I mean, you don't have to wait for something unpleasant. Come when you just plan to come back and at will, but also just to give us some regular updates. And I think everybody's going to feel better about it. It's incredibly popular, and the usage is only going up.
Absolutely.
And so I'm glad you're there, and I think the more people are, the better off we're all going to be.
No, absolutely. And I want everyone to know, whenever something happens out there on the Beltline, it seems like it's the end of the world. And it's because it's a trail, it's an urban trail system, and it's specific. So when something happens, the media and everyone, they try to, they turn it into...
Well, it's very visible right now.
Yeah, and it's high profile, it's very visible. And so, but I want everyone to know that it's safe. I mean, if you look at what's happened this year compared to the 8,000 people just on a weekend that are out there, I mean, it's very safe compared to other places that you might be. And now that we have police that do nothing but are out there every day just for that, it's very safe. And so I encourage everyone to use it.
All right, thanks for coming. We'll see you out there. Appreciate it.
And today was my day off. I had to come in from my house, so I had to bring my partner with me. He's there in the back. Can you say hello to everyone?
Thank you.
Thanks for
Come here.
All right, thanks very much.
Turn around and just wave to everyone. Say,
You did good.
Thank you, Mason.
all right. Thanks, everyone.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks for
very
coming. I don't think we have any City of Atlanta officials here. I'd actually like to make a motion to amend the agenda to include the one variance VO87 that I had left off the list.
Second.
Without objection, that is ordered. We'll put it in numerical order, third on the list. And I think we're ready to go into planning.
Okay, so do we have Eric, Mayor?
Yes.
Here, okay, great. This is, where's my list? ZRB, actually, 545, and it's Yeah Burger with a change of ownership. Do you mind telling the crew here what's going on?
Nope. So my former business partner, we have replaced him with a new investor, a minority investor in Yeah Burger, and Hence, we are applying for an amended liquor license for change of agent and change of ownership. So I am one of the founders, and I've been there since day one, so nothing will change. I've always been the managing partner, and we are just looking to change to have me as the agent and amend for the new minority investor. Yep.
And could you give us the names of both of those people, the previous owner?
Previous owner was Sean Doty, and the new owner is Scott Fitzgerald.
So I think we asked at the meeting about the training program is continuing. There are no liquor violations of the code even alleged. And
Correct.
the same management is in place.
Same, yep.
And so what was the recommendation of the planning committee?
We wanted to move it forward with no objection in the,
Is that a motion?
sure.
Is there a second? Any further discussion, questions from anyone? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Done. Thank you very much. So
Thank you.
7 o'clock at Hillside next
Next month.
Yep. Probably be on right around the second.
Okay.
More or less.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks to the neighborhood for your support, too. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, next is B13-021, 960 Highland Terrace, but the application's been withdrawn. And so the planning committee recommended,
Without prejudice. Bring it back if they ever wish. Is there a second? Is there any objection or comment? All in favor, please say aye.
okay. And then B13-077 is 770 Greenwood Avenue, and we have the applicants here. Michelle Cray is the architect, she's out of town, so we have Angela and
Matt.
If you guys would go ahead and stand up and talk about the project, what your plans are, and the variance that you're asking for.
Do you have one?
So we're seeking a variance from the zoning regulations to reduce the east side setback from our yard from 7 feet to 3 feet to build a garage. And it will be a single-car garage with an office above it and then a rooftop deck. We're in zoning RG2. The reason why we're asking for the setback to 3 feet is because we have a relatively large slash pine in our backyard, and this will minimize the impact on the root zone.
Is what in back there?
It will decrease the impact on the root zone.
A pine tree.
So the maximum height is going to be 22 feet 10.5 inches from the concrete to the rail. And since we're in RG2, there's no height restrictions. And then we've already sent out letters to the neighbors, and we've obtained signatures or have documentation that we sent to it by mail. And there will be no sewer plumbing upstairs, it'll just be a hose.
All right. Is there anyone else from the audience that would like to speak to this? Well, tell us what the planning committee did.
We recommended approval, to recommend approval to NPUF. And so I'll move to approve B13-077 based on the site plan stamped and dated June 24th, 2013, with, we added this to the garage,
Let's put it in there.
with positive only and 60 amp, and 60 amp electrical. For all the conditions.
And then we, as we noted on here, in light of the reduced buffer, and the reason I think 3 feet works here is the minimum general standard that the VCA is interested in allowing construction to go on, because you can, within a constricted fashion, under special circumstances, make that work. And I will throw in here the note that you've agreed to be mindful of construction impacts on that 3-foot buffer on the east side neighborhood. That was a motion to take. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion from anyone, any fact from JD?
You said a rooftop deck? on top of it all, and so you're not sticking about a height restriction?
There's no height restriction in RG2 effectively. There's,
Oh, okay.
yeah, there's not even, because the adjacent side is also RG2, there's not even a transitional height plane. If they were in the back against RG4, there would be a height
Right.
plane, but there's
Right.
not.
Okay.
Welcome to RG2.
Right.
That's an issue I mean, at some point, there's some challenges presented by that. That's what we have in front of us.
And it does sit very low, and it's kind of that, we sit up on the top of the street, and then the garage would be in the golden, so
Well,
to speak, so the height
Yeah.
is relative.
What comes to mind, is a rooftop deck with lots of partying going on, overlooking the neighbors,
Sure.
Well, the site plan, in fact, if you look on there, has some restrictions in it about windows, shows some restrictions on windows looking into the neighbor and a fence at the top. So I think this has been a topic that everybody's been looking at.
Just check.
No, it's those are immediate reactions we all had. And the 3 feet is not even ideal, but they really do have an astonishing, the biggest slash pine. You're used to seeing slash pines on the roadside in South Georgia. This thing is amazing. It's the biggest one I've ever seen in
Really?
this farm. It's huge. All right, there's a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll see you next week, 7 p.m. It'll be later, but see you there at 7. Thanks very much. Our next one is the one that was omitted from the agenda. It's B13087, 1025 Amsterdam.
We have David Elmore to present the plans.
Sorry to leave you off there.
My name's David Owen, I represent the owners of 1025 Amsterdam, single-family residence, R4 zone. The house is up from the street in the front, it has a fairly level backyard. The owners want to add a sunroom at the back of the house. It extends back about 10 feet. And they want to keep it in line with the existing house, which is in the side yard setback. And that's where we need a variance. We want to reduce that side yard from the required 7 feet to 4.5 feet. One-story addition, just a bungalow house. It's pretty straightforward. It's just what it appears to be. But the encroachment is just this darker color right along the back side there. We have a tree that's fairly close. It's already impacted by the existing house and will be impacted a little bit more by the addition. Spoke to the city arborist and he does not have a problem with that. We are talking about how to make sure it's saved. Everybody wants to save that tree. And we'll take some steps to do that in the permit process. The lot itself is non-conforming. It's a little bit smaller than zoning requires. It's a little bit narrower, actually quite a bit narrower. R4 zoning asks for 70 feet. This is a 50-foot lot. So a wider lot would probably be bigger. Anyway, that's my presentation, and I ask for your approval.
I think the only thing we'd asked for at the planning meeting was the existing lot coverage broken down, and you did that for us.
I do.
Thank you. If you can give it to us afterwards, I'm sure it adds up, but if you could send it to us in some sort of electronic form, we'd appreciate that.
I've got it printed out if you want.
Okay, that'd be even better.
I was wondering about the neighbor on the other side and whether or not they
This one?
were okay with it.
I have a letter from that neighbor,
Yes.
letter of support. How many letters do you have?
We have 4 letters of support from the 7 neighbors. The ones on each side, one directly behind, and one of the ones across Amsterdam.
And proof of mailing.
Yes,
And we
they
got
have
proof of mailing
approval.
together for it.
Okay, if you could show us that, just so we'll take a
No,
picture.
we have already.
You already got it, good to go. So what's the motion?
We recommended recommend approval for B13087 to NPUF based on site plan stamped and dated May 28th, 2013.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions for the applicant? All those in favor, please raise your hand. We'll see you next week, sir. Thank you very much. At the NPU, thank you all for coming. All right, now.
Next is B13099, 1062 Maryland Avenue. And the applicant's here to talk about, can you introduce yourself and talk about the plans?
Hi, my name is Skippy. I'm the owner of 1062 Maryland. We're looking for a variance to rebuild our existing garage on the existing foundation with an additional 66 feet to the very back. Currently, it is sitting at 11 feet from the rear setback and 2.5 feet from the north side setback. It is going to be a single-story garage for a car and a workshop on existing foundation. No current change to the setback to the side or back. We'll put in fire-rated walls on the north side because that's within 3 feet of our neighboring garage. That's what sits on the property line. There'll be gutters on both sides. They'll also include electricity, the sink and a toilet for the garage, for the office. Maximum height of 12 feet 4 inches.
All right, that's the proposal as filed. Lola, report from the planning committee.
Yeah, we recommended approval, and I've been to approve B13099 based on site plans stamped and dated June 10th, 2013, with standard garage conditions of 60 amp hose bib only and no taller than 16 feet.
And no plumbing connections, correct?
Excuse me.
And no plumbing
Right.
connections.
Mhm.
So this is not what the applicant has asked for. We had a large discussion with him about the history and background of why this position exists in Virginia-Highland and always has, or has, to my memory, which goes back to 1712, I think.
Your memory?
And that's because of the fact that it's been very, very easy and has been done many times, and scarcely a year goes by that we don't have complaints about illegally accessory buildings being used illegally for residential purposes. And our way of dealing with that has been to prohibit the sewer line particularly in there and allow only the hose bib connection, which lets people in their outbuildings wash their hands. I'll be happy to let you, sir, explain why you think you deserve an exception to this long-standing practice. The zoning which the planning committee did not say in favor.
The city allows for a bathroom, but it doesn't allow for a kitchen, which we're not planning on doing. I work 10 hours a day. That's my office back there. We do have the house to use, but when I'm in a location 10 hours a day, it's nice to have a sink and a toilet to use at my disposal. And also, if I'm doing yard work, I can clean up in the garage and not have to drag mud and whatnot into the house. That's a simple case of why I want it.
That is undoubtedly convenient. I think you're absolutely
Yeah.
correct. It would be more convenient. How far is it from your office to the house? How long would it take normally to trim the tree?
On a sunny day with the white wind conditions, it's about a minute, but if it's rain pouring, he would.
So approximately, as I measured it, 20 feet. And so I guess more like about 8 seconds rather than a minute. But in any case, maybe a minute if you're burdened. In any case, I appreciate is there anything else you would like to say?
No, I don't think it's cut and dry. And you guys are against it, and I would like to close that to the.
I understand. We have successfully defended, as we've explained to the applicant, this position many times at the VCA, and we look forward to trying to do so again. But we do appreciate the applicant, who, among his many other virtues, is a volunteer for Habitat for Humanity, which warms all our hearts. Yes, ma'am.
Is this practice officially stated anywhere that applicants would be able to find it?
I'll let Debbie respond to that. Debbie and JD, why don't you go ahead, since she's heard.
I'm just curious for the future in terms of, I'm sure you didn't know about it before you put in the variance.
It is in the NPUF variance checklist. It's specifically stated there, and I believe that there's somewhere on the Virginia-Highland website, there's also reference.
Thank you. JD, would you like to comment? Yeah. All right. Is there further questions or for the applicant or comments? John?
I'm just trying to figure out, how many houses are you west of Los Angeles Avenue? Which one is 1062?
I am
The second.
second.
Second, okay, okay. Thank you.
All right, are there any further comments? We have a motion and a second for this, which supports the variance, and we passed around a sign here. It's a very narrow variance, but he's rebuilding on the existing site, and as the house visible on the right side of the photo was rebuilt on that site, no request for a variance a year ago. So in any case, I think it's practical to build there. The site plans include a gutter and a garage, and if they don't, do they include, the site plans have that on there? Why don't you amend that? I believe the site plans did not, and so I think your motion is going to need to include the fact that there
I
will
put
be-
it on the justification, whatnot, as you recommended.
So it won't matter. It won't matter to you if it's included on there will be a gutter on the north side and connected to a rain barrel. So that just
on
will
both
keep-
sides.
Yeah, that will keep the water off of his neighbor's property, which his neighbor has not done, and is rotting out the bottom of his property. So these things are not abstract points at all. They're quite real. All right, that's the motion. Is there further discussion?
What exactly
The
is
motion
Yeah.
is to approve, however, based on the site plan, without the interior plumbing as the applicant's requirement, and to ask the VCA to impose the historic Virginia-Highland accessory building conditions, which limits electrical to 60 amps, and the only plumbing is a hose bib outlet with no sewer line connection. Okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And I believe that is unanimous. All those opposed, it is unanimous. We will see you next week at 7, and we can both repeat our arguments another night, and then we'll see you at the meeting.
Third time, right?
Thank you for coming. And it was a good site visit, and we enjoyed it very much. We sometimes don't, but we enjoyed this one a lot. So,
I'm glad.
Thank you.
so it was good. All right, well,
Our next is B13-116. It's an appeal to, basically an approval of the site plans, and Pamela is
she skipped one. Why don't we go back to 13-101? Oh, I'm sorry, you're. No,
oh, I'm sorry, I do
response.
at least need to, that's the word.
This is a potential application for a potential gazebo at the renovation of the Mariclo Summit, and it's being made at the request of the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. And we had a lovely tour of the project, and I hope, John, we're going to get an article from them about the progress. To say that there's a lukewarm enthusiasm for this from the applicants would be to overestimate it by dozens of degrees. So in any case, we have expressed our reluctance to increase the impervious surface on the site from 90 to 91%. And they are expressing that with the Department of Community Affairs. And so this may or may not be back before us, but there is good news about the project, and I hope we'll get an article out of it. And John will get to see it, and Lola took some great pictures from the river while we were there. All right, now,
I'm sorry, Jeff, what is the status of it?
we're right there, they've asked for deferral.
They have asked for.
You know, 1 month deferral, as it says right there, requested at that, deferral requested reading. All right, go right ahead.
Okay, I just have a couple of exhibits to share. I'll start with this photo. There are about 10 houses on Highland Terrace that have really, really long lots, and also some on Parallel Street, Amsterdam, that back up to it. And the reason is because there's an intermittent stream behind the properties. And our house is one of them, and the house to the west of Colin and I, they have torn down the old house and they want to build a new house. And the stream that, continues and runs past our next door neighbor's house, this is a photo of it. It's, the EPD has been out and have concluded that there is an intermittent stream, and so not only does the state water's 25-foot buffer apply, but the city's 50-foot buffer apply. And at the western edge of this property, there happens to be a pipe. And here's a picture that shows sort of the opening of the pipe. Nobody knows what the pipe was installed for. it's not in alignment with the line of rested vegetation or the stream channels. You can see this is the line of rested vegetation, the stream channel, the pipe's over here, so it's south of and kind of near the stream, and nobody seems to know what the pipe is for, but it may have been inserted to capture stormwater from the hills behind. So that's the topography. The neighbors filed a site plan that was approved by the city, and there is an astonishing stream buffer that was approved by the city. What the city did, okay, and here's, I'm sorry, I do have a bigger picture, but I'll start with this one. This is the stream, and these green lines on there, that photo, are the 25 and 75 foot buffers respectively, and you'll see how the lines of the buffers follow the channel of the stream. This blue line is a perpendicular line drawn perpendicular to the opening of this pipe, which nobody knows what even it does, and that's the stream limit the city approved. So they approved the stream limit. That makes absolutely no sense and is completely contrary to the law. And as a result, you'll see the neighbors are able to build a porch and deck and part of a rain garden in what otherwise would have been the proper stream buffer. And our position is that they need to file the appropriate request for authorized encroachment before the city can allow them to build that. Here's the larger.
They've already built it? It's already built?
No, they've torn down the original house and they've started digging out the basement on the new house. And so Colin and I got an attorney and filed a notice of appeal of the administrative decision saying that this is not the way you draw a stream buffer, requesting that the stream buffer be drawn correctly and that the porch and deck be relocated so that they are not encroaching into the stream, and or that they obtain the requisite authorized encroachment before building it. And one of the reasons, we're doing this for two reasons. One, you want the stream buffer to be drawn correctly to preserve the ecosystem of the stream. But this house is also a very long house built completely along a 7-foot setback, and it impacts our line of sight, our privacy, and our view to the stream and our light. And so therefore, we would like to not have the porch and deck. But anyway, the city erred and we filed a notice of appeal. And there are areas like right behind the family room they could relocate the porch and still have everything they wanted. So that's pretty much it.
We invited the city, of course, to come to the planning meeting, to this meeting, to explain the position they chose, and they have not chosen to do so. This is something that I've, in 20 years of fooling with stream buffers, I've never seen a buffer drawn anything remotely like this. It's an interesting intellectual exercise, but a very odd one from a stream point of view. And it's been drawn in a way, it's been drawn in the only possible way that allows almost any construction at that point along the property. And I don't know precisely what was in the mind of the person that did it. I can only say that this is this never heretofore seen in my knowledge or in any of the professionals whom I've consulted in the field, doesn't at this point have ever seen or heard of anything remotely like this. So I think it's an unusual determination, shall we say, and I think I would be much more comfortable in arguing against it and hard pressed to imagine how this will stand. But in any case, I think we recommended support of the appeal based on the fact that the stream buffer should be drawn in a typical and standard fashion as it is invariably. To my knowledge, I've never seen one like this, and that whatever happens after that can happen. You can apply for variance of authorized stream encroachment in the city. There are procedures for getting exceptions to build in there, and you can offer various forms of mitigation, and they're actually fairly often granted in varying degrees depending on how much encroachment you ask for and what kind of mitigation you propose to compensate for it. So I think there's a reasonable avenue open to these applicants, and I hope they're welcome to use it if they choose, but I think I think we're all in worse shape if this kind of extraordinarily unusual procedure is allowed to stand. And that's why I think there's a neighborhood interest in asking the Department of Watershed Management to proceed in a reasonable and normal standard. JD?
Has anybody talked to the individual who made the administrative decision to do this?
Yes, I have had numerous emails back and forth and several visits down to the city to talk to Lowell Chambers. And
Is that in the planning department? Or?
he's in site plan development watershed.
He's assigned to Watershed and he's a member paid by Watershed and assigned to planning.
Okay.
And we also submitted to the planning committee an expert report that, validates our position that the law requires, and it's very clear, if you read the law, it couldn't be clearer, the buffer should follow the linear line of the stream, and our position is that it continues entirely across the property because the channel continues entirely across the property. If, however, the stream had been piped, which in this case, nobody knows what that pipe is, and it's not even aligned with the stream, but let's say it was piped, then still the stream buffer should mirror the linear channel of the stream up to the point it ends. And this is just such an aberration of what the clear mandate of the law is that Colin and I are absolutely dumbfounded.
So
maybe
that's the issue in front of us here, and the normal piece when streams go into pipes is that the stream buffer ends there, typically, but it's fully enforced for the 25 and 75 foot limit state and city right up until the moment it goes in there, and it includes everything in that 25 foot parallel that led into a 25 or 75 foot, depending on which one you're drawing, parallel leading up to that, and you don't get to exclude it. You don't get to subsequently exclude parts of it because upstream, because downstream it went into a pipe. It's still a buffer upstream until it goes into a pipe. So it's very unusual. This is not rare to have this situation. This is just rare to draw it like this.
Where does the appeal go to?
Well, I'm going to the NPU after next Monday and then the VCA, but frankly, there is some ongoing discussion between our attorney and attorneys down at the city about what the appropriate appeal path is. And they agreed to meet with us next week, when I think we're going to meet, to discuss and perhaps settle it short of litigation, which we're very hopeful to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll find out more then.
So I think we had a motion in the planning committee which unanimously passed to support the appeal, and based on this odd and unusual delineation of a stream buffer, which we very much believe in here, and which is typically followed with enthusiasm in the city, and that's what we're supporting. And any decision, such as the issuance of a building permit, that was a direct result of that.
You want me to read it out loud, what you said?
Well, it's on your piece here, but it's, the planning committee recommends support of the appeal and the failure of the city to use a standard and typical buffer delineation in determining that. I'll make that a motion.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion, questions? Anybody else? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All right, we'll see you next week on that. Let the record know that Andrew, of course, did not vote on her own motion, which she's not allowed to do here or at the NPU. Thank you for that. All right. That concludes the variance piece. All right. And now we're on to the
Now we're going to move on to the transportation plan report from Jennifer Kisen and Wes.
Jess.
Jess Wyndham. I was thinking of Wyndham. Cole wants me to come to the big kid table.
Make it official.
Yes. At the last board meeting, I gave an update on the status of the transportation plan. And I just wanted to give, I guess, another update on where we are. What we'd like to do is implement the first stage of the plan, which is seeking public input on areas of concern related to traffic and transportation in Virginia-Highland. And we're going to do that by means of an online survey. So what we are planning to do is put a short article in the next edition of The Voice announcing the creation of the transportation plan and the upcoming online survey that will be going out to get people's input for the transportation plan. And we're also going to be seeking, applications for people to serve on a task force that will work with Aaron Fortner, the planner that we're using for this project, to move this project ahead. And our hope is that we will do the online survey in August. I'm sorry, let me step back. Our hope is that we're asking for people to submit their application to serve on the task force by mid-July. We'll go through those and select people to serve on the task force. Then we will work with Aaron to develop the online survey, which will go out probably mid-August. And we'll get the input from the online survey. Then we'll go on to phase 2, which will be 2 public meetings to provide updates and information to the community on the information that we received in the survey. And then we will use that data and the other data in various transportation plans, such as Beltline planning, Connect Atlanta, the planning and study that Midtown Alliance is doing. Use all of that data to develop and prepare the transportation plan for Virginia.
So I think y'all have written an introductory note that we hope to run in the Voice in the next
As
week.
I said.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
When's the next one?
Oh, it's just about a week from today, or next Sunday, or next month, Sunday or Monday, and solicit and explaining the plan in greater detail, the goals, and asking for some input. And Jess, do you have anything to add to any of this?
Oh, sounds good.
She wrote a bunch of the letters, so thank you for doing that. So are there any questions or comments? We really don't have a motion. We don't need any approval here other than to give everybody an update about what we're doing and where this will be going. And we'll be explaining a little more detail there, and then it'll really get going once we get out, start doing outreach. And we mentioned in y'all's letter, you mentioned a number of things that we've heard from citizens in the past year. There's quite a few, in fact, and I think we haven't even asked. So I think we're going to hear more from folks about some of the issues, the ones that were mentioned were Monroe, which is a huge, huge issue, the Beltline access along Monroe and the challenges there from Briarcliff and particularly Spark, Inland School, and huge pickup, particularly in the afternoon, was a huge challenge there. And a lot of issues about cut-throughs on private streets, and in our minds, we're awaiting further interest along some Area 6 and all a bunch of other things that they have. Thanks, and I'm sorry?
Did you say Moreland crosswalk?
Briarcliff, yeah. We need crosswalks at Briarcliff, and then as Ponce Place comes on, City East comes online, that's going to bring even more usage and more folks around. So some interesting stuff brewing.
Well,
Bicycle connectivity is in there, right?
and the impetus for this plan is really the fact that there are several plans that have already been developed, several transportation plans that have been developed that impact our neighborhood. Additional plans that are currently being developed, like the Beltline planning, changes to Ponce de Leon, adding the bike lane. All of these different plans are being developed and implemented. And if we don't have our own plan, these plans will be imposed upon us without us having a voice as to how